Good evening to the stream this evening. Okay. Welcome to the studio, everybody. Thank you for joining this evening. Tonight we are going to finish off doing this bracelet here, which is a tiger themed bracelet using 4-in-1 European weave. So a nice open weave with some black stripes on for the tiger theme. And I now just got to work out how wide I wanted it to be. So I just have to go 1, 2. I was going to compare it to something else, but I don't actually need to do that. I just need to count. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. I'm just trying to work. That's 1, that's 2, that's 3, and that's 4. That suggests that that's as long as I'm going to make it. I'm actually going to use one of these, a clasp that I've got here. Well, not this clasp, but one like this. So I'm just want to 1. Oh no, I need at least another row. Okay. So I need to start by opening orange rings, and probably only orange rings. Although I do have some black ones out. We're going to open orange ones. In fact, I'm going to use a different pair of pliers for doing this because it'll be easier. And that camera's moved again. I have to get some blue tack for that camera. Okay. So what do we want? We've got well, a few. I'm not going to bother counting them. We'll just open a fair few, and if we run out we'll open some more. And we'll go from there. Probably going to need at least a couple of dozen. So I think we've about 2/3 of a row and then a row left in order to finish this particular bracelet off. When I actually get hold of this ring that I keep throwing about the desk, that would help. Fluffy Twiglet, good evening. Welcome to the studio this evening, and I trust you are well today. Right. Yep. I'm kind of talking to myself just like then. He's saying yep, then I was sort of, oh, I need to do some more. Yep. Sorry, I pushed a button and pushed the wrong button there. I'm still here, I'm not going anywhere. Okay. as it's quite surprising how many rings this thing goes through. I will do, as I say, I'll do a fair few. I think I've got another a row and 2/3 to do to finish this particular bracelet, but I'll do another, well, I'll finish this row, do another row, and then we'll actually see. I'll again compare it against the the clasp that I want to use on it. Yeah, that'll do. I want to do some weaving. Now then, I need to work out where I've got up touches here. You can't see that, but I'm going there and I'm looking at that and going, I can see the step if you like. I come along, that one is sort of missing, so that tells me that the one that should be there is the next one I need to do. So I will just, I don't know, stick that through there and pick it up. That way I can hold it in my hand at the right place, which is just there. And I've got it in the right place now, so I'll tip the camera back. Trouble is, when it's zoomed in like this, you can't really see both places, both the desk and what I'm doing in my hands. Which reminds me, funnily enough, my camera controls were offline. Let's see if they've come back online. No, okay, my PC is going to need a reboot. I'm going to have to take the camera offline and back online again in order to do any zooming. It's pretending to be funny. Actually, I wonder if I can get at them from within. The camera controls are supposed to be in the sort of notification area at the bottom right of the screen, and they're not. That particular icon has oh, I know what it is. Yeah, I aborted a reboot last night, and that's what it is. So some of the stuff has stopped and hasn't restarted. So let me just see if I can kick it up. Global sources for that. No. Yeah, okay. I will have to reboot my PC after this stream. Never mind. It just means I can't do much with the camera. I can do some stuff, but it's a little bit awkward. I have to use OBS for it rather than the camera controls themselves, but never mind. Okay, so we're just going to run down this side with complete orange rings, and then do another row which I intend it to do completely orange, which makes it easier. I don't have to work out where the black ones have to go. I kind of feel like I've done enough black stripes. And then once we've done this, I'm going to have a go at a 6-in-1 weave just to see what it looks like compared to the 4-in-1. that's just a little bit offline. There we go. And I've got to decide yet what colour to do that in. I've got a choice of a few. So those of you watching may get to suggest a colour, we shall see. Depends on what I've got most of, I think. So this is one of the most simpler weaves. Just purely because it's fairly easy to do. I know I kept getting confused at the start, but that's possibly just me. But it is so open that you know, you've no problems with feeding rings through, or you know, getting them to go into just the right place. They're fairly simple, and it's an obvious repetitive pattern which you can see and follow fairly easily as well. And with this you can create extremely large sheets of chainmail if you want to do so, if you want, you know, a large sheet of it for any particular reason. It can virtually be as wide and as long as you like. And I just took one on the end like that. And we go all the way and start this again. Nearly. So this time it's going to be orange all the way up. Down and up. I wonder if I can do this using these other pliers. There's no particular reason why I shouldn't be able to do it. It'll just make it a little bit easier to hang on to the rings with it being wider. Yeah. That's easier. The wider jaws on these red pliers just make it a lot easier to hold these rings whilst I'm closing the ring up, if I can get hold of them in the first place. Which means I'm less likely to sort of slip off the rings or anything like that, which is a good thing. That one, and that one. Right, for those people who are watching that have no idea what it is that I'm doing, and if you all do know, then feel free to say so and I'll stop saying what I'm about to say. And that is, what you're looking at is me making jewellery. I'm making a bracelet. That bracelet is themed as tiger stripe, hence the black and orange, and it's been made out of aluminium rings, or aluminum for you Americans who don't say it right. And that aluminium has been anodized and dyed into these really nice shiny colours. And then I am joining these rings together. The technique of doing so is called chainmail. Although a lot of people do tend to associate chainmail with making armour. Well, I'm not making armour, although this particular weave that I'm using is one that would be used for doing that purpose. I just don't think you find many knights of old with a tiger themed armour, to be honest, but you never know, it might have scared off the people that they were fighting if it had been. Very much like the face paint of the ancient warriors. So what I'm doing is just looping these rings through the rings that are already here. I've pre-opened all these rings that I'm using at the moment. That means I've increased the gap that was already there, created in manufacture between them. And then once I've threaded them through the weave, I close them up, which involves not only twisting the two ends together, but pushing them together as well, so that the gap that is there all but disappears, and sometimes can be extremely difficult to see or even feel where it is. We're quite close now to the end of this row. When we do get there, I will just see if the clasp that I intend to go on the end of it is, I've got enough rows of rings to support it. I may just possibly need another row, I'm not sure, we'll find out in a moment. Okay, so I'm going to lay that down and just sort out how the rings have just laid themselves. That's it. Right. Okay, I'll show you what I'm doing. I'll just tip it down. So what I intend it to use is a two-part clasp, which will be similar to the one I've got on this particular bracelet here. This nice sparkly one, which is actually I don't know what the clasp is called. I'll have to look it up and remember. But it just slips inside like that. If I can get this camera, can't zoom out the camera, and so it's just a magnet's just hold it in place, but it just slips out. But as you can see, there's 4 rings on the end. So what I intended to do was to use those 4 rings to join to what's here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and yeah, that's about right. So roughly what I intended to do. Oh, well, I'll get another cocktail stick out. Since that one has gone the way of many rings. Right, I've got 2 cocktail sticks in. Useful things, cocktail sticks, whilst you're doing this, or even for airbrush painting. What I intended to do was put sort of a ring through there, a ring through there, a ring through there, and a ring through there. So that's 4 rings which will then join onto that clasp. Do the same on the other side, and the idea of that is, if I just feed this through here, when you've got the 4 rings on, what it will tend to do is hold this side of the bracelet fairly open and the other side, and so it will tend to make it sit like that as you just pick it up and hold it. If I were to put something like a toggle clasp or a lobster claw clasp on, it would have a tendency to sort of bunch up and just be a little bit untidy at the end. I could do it. I'll see what it's like once I put one of the those long clasps on. If I was going to actually join this to either a toggle clasp or a lobster claw clasp, what I'd do is I'd sort of join a set of rings onto here that instead of it being 5 wide, it would go 4 wide, 3 wide, 2 wide, till I was left with 1. So I'd sort of taper the ends. But that's done. I don't happen to have a clasp to hand, so that's it'll stay like that until I acquire one, and then we'll put that on the end. So the orange is done, black and gold. Yeah, it's actually black and orange. Fear Reaper, but I know the camera has a problem. Hence the orange, as in tiger. Have I got some gold? I'll just give you an idea. Because what I can do is show you the in these rings here. That's the orange, and that's yellow, and that's gold. So I wish I could zoom this camera out a bit, but can't. There you go. You can just about see the 2 colours side by side, orange and gold. So the gold is sort of a lot paler, if you like. Right, I might need those, so I'll just put them. Actually, I'll put these black rings away, which I didn't need. So what I'm going to do now is try. That was a 4-in-1, European 4-in-1 weave. What I'm going to do is just try a European 6-in-1 weave, which should be a bit somewhat more tighter. And there we go. It should be a tighter weave. I'm going to put these orange ones away. I don't quite have enough orange ones left to do any more with those. But now then, so a 6-in-1, I have got a choice of colours. I can either go for sky blue, pink. I've got pink. What else have I got? And I think these rings will be okay for a 6-in-1. Again, the magic number, the AR value comes into play with these. Yeah, 5.4 should be fine. I've got the magic purple. Now these are bigger, but that's not a problem. So I know they look blue, but trust me, they're purple. And I've got some large pink, and I could do red. I've got some largish red there. And I also have some green, which you can't see because the camera is. Grab that lot and do that. Got green, red and purple in fairly large rings, and then we've got sky blue and pink in small rings. Actually, I suppose I could do orange. I've got a few hundred here, so I'll grab the orange out. And what else do I have in my box of? Okay, I also have large sky blue as well. I've got large. Now that I start looking, I've got those. I've got, yeah, plenty of pink, and I've got large pink. So, any particular preferences? Bubbles the Monkey, hey, hello, welcome to the stream and the studio. I sometimes get those two confused up. Nice to see you again. How are you? I'm going to make it out just one colour, Fear Reaper, I think. Don't know. Might put a stripe in it. So, yeah, the green and red, blue and... I'm going to need silver. Or not enough silver, I'm afraid. I'm looking, have I got enough green? Not of the small size there. Actually, yeah, I could do some small. I could do small green, orange, pink or blue, and then we've got large pink, large blue, large purple, large red, large green. Or purple. Yeah, choices. What are those? There we go. I'm going to add another one. We've got gold as well. So my intention was to just do a single colour, I think, for this, but they're smaller than, yeah, they're small. They're really small green. I think we'll stay away from the really small green, just because it will take a long time to do. So I'll just put that over there. And that packet has opened itself, so we'll stay away from those, I think. You know what, I'm being tempted at this moment in time with a cream cake, and Mrs. Zaraganat is over there at the moment opening up the packet. So you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a go with the purple, I think, just because it's a nice rich colour. Golden light blue, purple, golden light blue. No, I can't do black. I've none of the black, not as sufficient of the black. But golden light blue, yeah. Have I got any? No, I don't have any big gold. Just the small gold. So the question would be, you think? Mrs. Zaraganat, my colour consultant, is also taking a look. And thinking of either a complete one in purple, or, as has been suggested, golden and the blue, the sky blue. Golden sky blue? Golden sky blue, okay. So, Fear Reaper, thank you very much. I might have a go with the purple if in a bit and do the same thing again, because that's a nice thick ring, so I might just do a bit of that just to see what it looks like, because these the gold and the sky blue I've got here are the same size as the ones we've just done on this. Actually, will be an interesting comparison, so we will do at least some of that. So for the minute, let me put away the pink. See, I'm not that good at telling what colours go with which. Fluffy Twiggler, no, you're not getting that cake. That one is a cream donut, and it's mine. That one's taken. But Fluffy Twiggler says hi. So I shall just pack these back into boxes. I should put away the ones I've got in bags around the place, but so green ones are over here. Goes in there. Purple lid can go on there. I will put the purple ones away for the moment. Red ones can go away. And the orange ones, they didn't come out of there, but that can go away. That box of pink, sorry, I'm now busy tidying up. So those pink ones come out of here, so they can go back into there, which is something that you can't see, but I'm putting them back in my little box of many colours, and the orange can also go back into the box of many colours as well. So I shall leave the blue ones out now then. I'll start with gold, I think. So I've got a few of these out. And we'll work with that. So my box of many colours. All's fair with cream cakes at stake. You've got some chocolate with Oreo pieces inside. Is it chocolate with Oreo pieces inside? Okay, I've never had any myself. Mrs. Elganart says it's really nice. Why have I got a box missing? And more to the point, where is it? Okay, well, we'll sort that out afterwards. I have a box, possibly with rings in it, possibly not, which is missing. And I don't know where it is. Maybe Junior, who's been laid on the desk overnight, has pushed it somewhere. Oh well. Right, so this uses open and closed rings. So the kind of suggestion for making this is to do it in sort of long chains, and then you join two long chains together. Well, chain only wants to be about 7 inches long actually, and of course if I do this as long chains I've got to remember to switch to the blue. So talking of the blue, I've now have to make a design decision, and that is, how do I incorporate the blue, the light blue? I can either do it as bands just straight across, you know, gold, blue, gold, blue. I could do it, that's already open so I'll leave it open. I could do it as a diagonal band. I could do it as a chevron, so an arrow. I think I'll do it as a diagonal band. That sounds a bit easier to do. Now this I know starts with 6 closed rings. And that's an open ring. And that's open. Okay, obviously I've used opened these rings in the past. Let's close a few more. No, I don't speak French, so unfortunately it will need to be English, if you wouldn't mind. Now I need to tip this back up, don't I, so you can see what I'm doing with my hands. I did think, Fluffy Twiggler, of doing some royal blue ring work tonight. Now that I've put a different shirt on. Now I've got a blue shirt on rather than the orange one from last night. Just to mess with you a little bit. I don't think these blue ones are. Oh no, these blue ones are. Yeah, that's coincidence, isn't it? I remember I didn't pick the blue. Fear Reaper did. Yeah, off of there. Thank you. Right, I will start to do a bit of weaving in a moment, I think. I'm just get a few of these ready, and then we'll come back and close some more. Okay, let's have a go at this. So I'll want one open ring through which I put 6. Closed rings, I believe. That's 5. That's 6. I'm doing this without reference to instructions. That possibly is a bad idea. But we shall find out. So I'm going to be a bit fiddly is doing this. Okay, so let's see if I can do this. Okay, so what I'd be doing is putting 2 closed rings onto this. Now it might have been easier to do this in a slightly different order, but I'll pick up 2 rings on that side, and then I pick up 2 rings on this side, and that looks like a total mess in my hands, but I think we'll get there in just a moment. Here we go, like so, and I know that's off frame, but I'm just holding it in a way in which hopefully the rings won't fall off. Okay. Let's throw that in there, I don't care about for the moment. Okay, so this is going to get to be quite a tight weave, I can see. So I want to go through that one and that one. Then I want to pick up 1, 2 more. And I go and pick up, oh blimey, one, 2 on that side. Maybe I should have been better doing this on the even bigger rings to start with. Well, it's sort of looking right. More floating rings. How on earth am I managing? I'm not actually 100% sure about that, Fluffy Twiggler, but it actually, where are we? There we go. If I try and hold it that way, the 6 in 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up that ring, add 2 on the back in the same place, and then pick up this one and this one. It would kind of be easy if I could do it a bit like a staple gun and just go through, hold it in such a way I could go through those 4 together, turn it over and just drop 2 on top. but I can't quite do that. Maybe if I'd opened the ring the other way around, perhaps. I'm not sure, but so I've gone through the two on the right there. Add in the two new ones and then turn it over. Actually, and see if I can pick up these two on this side like that. Now I can. Now it does somewhat. Actually, that's another weave I could try a little bit of, and that is a Mobius ball. Maybe we'll do one of those. That's just a case of putting lots and lots of rings through a single ring. But there we go. I don't know if you can see, it's sort of working. Do I work with diamonds, Oxil? No, I don't. I can't afford to work with diamonds. Sparkly stones is about as close as I get. Diamonds are horrendously expensive. Well, relatively speaking, I mean they're obviously as expensive as they are because they're diamonds, but when I'm comparing if you buy, you're paying sort of several £100s for a diamond, and when you're working with chains, a diamond isn't kind of enough. You want a fair number of them, and that's too expensive. I mean, if somebody wanted to pay me in advance to work with diamonds, then I might consider it. No, there's not even a yet on that one, Fluffy Twiglet. There's not even a yet on that one. You can work with crystals. I'll show you. You work with crystals. So you can do something like that. That's they're crystals. They're not diamonds or precious stones. But that's about the closest. If that really was diamonds, this would be worth several £1,000s, and it's not. I love it when, in some ways, I love it when people who are in chat talk about the broadcaster in the third person. So what I could do at this point, Oxil is, and welcome to the studio by the way, is just leave the chat to answer your question for you. No, I'm not going to work with diamonds or precious stones at all, Fluffy Twiglet. I just can't afford to do that. And to be honest, there's no real need. If I want to make pretty things, then the crystals are just as pretty, to be honest. And so that's the 6-in-1, just a section of 6-in-1. So it's gone quite well as that one. The crystals work quite well, and to be honest, diamonds, okay, you can get a rose or a reddish diamond and a blue diamond, and I believe you can sort of get a green tinted diamond, but you can't get that sort of green, etc. So I've got more colours and just general fancy looking stuff available to me if I stick with the crystals. And anyway, in terms of the donut, I ought to be saying definitely not rather than yet. You know, that might worry Mrs. Arrogant, but no. Okay, I need to actually close some more gold rings before I can carry on, because I've run out of them. You know, with these, well, with any weave, to be honest, you look like you've got a great pile of rings, and you very quickly run out of them. All gold, blimey. Do you mean real gold or do you mean gold coloured? And actually, what's a Jesus piece, to be honest? If somebody would explain it to me. It's not a term I'm familiar with unless you're talking about it carrying a cross. If you're talking about if you're talking about real gold, as in sort of 9 carat or greater gold, then that, a necklace would be really pricey. If you're talking about filled gold, then it's a bit more affordable, but it's still an expensive piece. The only problem is I can't well, I was about to say I can't deal in gold. I actually can't. The same for sterling silver as well. It's not, and I'll qualify what I'm about to say, and that is I can work with those metals, but I can't sell them as such. So I can't sell you a gold necklace, and I can't sell you a sterling silver one. Even if I've gone and got sterling silver rings or solid gold rings, I can't sell you it as that, because in the UK, for me to sell something which is described as being gold or silver, it has to be hallmarked. Well, gold, if there's more than a gram of gold involved, or there's more than 6.78 grams of silver involved, it has to be hallmarked. To sell it described as gold without it being hallmarked is a criminal offence, which has a substantial fine or imprisonment. The nearest I can do is to sell it described as gold metal or silver metal, and then of course you've got no guarantee of what's actually in it, because if I said gold metal, it could be aluminium coated gold, and there's no, I'm not that I'm about to do that, but that's the reason why it has to be hallmarked. So unfortunately, if you're talking about real gold, I would not be able to do that, I'm afraid. And I'm not sure, still not quite sure what you mean by that, because there are all sorts of depictions of Christ or Jesus with all sorts of things on his head. Obviously ranging from the crown of thorns to halos of various kinds, but no, solid gold, solid gold is not something unfortunately I can deal with. The hallmarking process itself is a relatively expensive process. Not well. You've to register as what they call a, what do they call it now? I think it's promoter. which involves paying a relatively sizable fee. You then have to have a hallmark stamp created, and that's mandatory, which in itself has a fee. And then every single piece that you make has to be sent to an assay office, who will assay it, and then if it meets the standard with respect to the precious metal, they'll then apply the hallmark, and they charge a fee for that service, which in the UK starts at around £20. So as soon as you apply a hallmark, if I make a piece and want to apply a hallmark to it, the price just went up by 20 quid. So yeah, it unfortunately is not something I'm going to be able to do in the short term, or possibly even the long term. I would like to be able to deal with sterling silver, but as I say, all I can do at the moment is deal with dealing sterling silver clasps, because they weigh less than the limit, and therefore it is perfectly legal for me to describe them as sterling silver, even though they don't carry a hallmark. So I bet you didn't know all of that. Actually, it's kind of fun to go looking at websites of people who make chainmail jewellery, for example, in the UK. Other countries have different rules. Look at their websites and see if they sell sterling silver necklaces, for example, or even a bracelet, because a bracelet in sterling silver almost certainly weighs more than the limit, and see if they're describing it as sterling silver, because if they are, it must be hallmarked, and they must actually also display on the website details about the hallmarking, so their promoter's mark and some other information. If they don't do that, they're actually trading illegally. So it's quite fun to go look at them, and even if somebody sells something on eBay or Etsy, for example, it still applies. You know, if you made it and sell it on those platforms, you still have to have it hallmarked. Now, I admit, until relatively recently, that's not something I realised, but it is something that I came across almost by accident, and I'm kind of glad I did. All these rules and regulations that you have to abide by when you're selling things, which you know, not easy to find out. Now then, I said I was going to maybe do a band of blue, wasn't I? So maybe I should do the, I'll tell you what, I'll start the blue on the next round, because I need to close some blue rings and I haven't prepped any. So I'll just put these on since I've got the gold rings in place, and these are gold coloured rings, since I'm talking about aluminium. Daft as it sounds is, I can describe things as gold aluminium rings, but I have to be careful if I use the word gold on its own. Right, so I'll just put that down and prep some blue rings. I've got a few out. Is that clear? Yes, it is. But I'll get a few more out. It's also fun when you start when you start looking into all these rules and regulations. For example, this what I'm making here, the post office do not describe as jewellery, because jewellery, according to the post office, that's the UK post office, is made from precious metals, and these aren't. So the nearest description for aluminium based jewellery that satisfies the post office is costume jewellery. So some all sorts of interesting things go on. I actually haven't looked at what the export regulations are or the import regulations in other countries as to what they might be described as. I am doing this on frame, yes I am. So I'm just prepping closing. Actually I'll open some as well, some of these blue rings, because I'm about to switch to do a section of light blue. In fact, because I want to be able to sell some of these, hopefully, well not these, but be able to potentially be able to sell jewellery so that I can net fund making more. I've had to look into all sorts of regulations to do with being able to sell in the UK. And quite coincidentally I came across, because my wife loves pigs. She absolutely adores pigs and actually would love to have one as a pet. And I was reading all the legislation and came across the selling regulation for pigs. Now, there is all sorts of rules and regulations in the UK about buying and selling pigs because of the disease, the problem of diseases and foot and mouth disease and things like that. So it's amazing what you come across when you're not looking for it. I could probably do with closing more of these blue rings than I'm opening, so let's close these last few. Came along, ring, stop playing games with me. Let's close these last three that I've got here, and then we'll weave some of the blue ones in. See, not only do you get the visual entertainment of watching me mess up or otherwise, or with these rings, you get to learn how these things go together, and you also get lessons on selling the things and regulations and things. Not bad, is it, for one stream? Right, so I need to hold these. It's basically, as long as you hold these, it's kind of like a butterfly. Sort of hold it in the right way, then this seems to get fairly easy to do. I'll switch to using my chain nose pliers, because that way it seems to be a bit easier to get hold of. So if I just get that to go, get that to go where I want it to go. So you go through there, and then go back through. Alright, don't go through there then. How about if I try on the bottom side? I'm trying to work out an easier way of doing this, so that I can then hold sort of like that, I guess. So I've done that, so what I'm going to do is put a gold ring on this side and a blue ring on that side. So that introduces the the start of the blue rings, and then the next blue ring would be in the middle. So I'll use one of these. So I'll pick that up there, and then pick those two up on that side. And then what I'll do is add two blue rings to this. So I've kind of now gone sort of diagonally across this band. And then I'll carry on with the gold rings for a while, sorry, the blue rings for a while. And then I'll do exactly the same thing to switch back to gold. So you've kind of got a no, that's not worked very well. This ring should be gold, and then the next one should be blue. So we'll take it off. That way it looks right. So I've got to switch this ring out for a gold one. And I'll show you what I mean in a minute when I've just put the blue rings back on here. Now add two blue rings onto this. And I'm off frame, aren't I? Yeah. And that blue ring has just dropped off, so we shall put that one back on there and close it up. So the idea being, I hold it sort of, let's put the blue one in. I'll tell you what, let me put this next row in and it'll show up even better. Come on. You're going to go through rings whether you like it or not, so you might as well just accede to my will. Two blue ones on. Have I switched my glasses today? I shall have to have a look. I think I have, but I'm having a bit of trouble seeing these rings. Okay, so I'll show you what I mean by sort of this, if I can. The idea was kind of like get into a position I can show it, illustrate it hopefully. So it's sort of I can't really get this into a good angle. My thumb's in the way now. Alright, put them down. You go over the other side of there like that, and you stop twisting that way, because you all of this just to try and show you what I'm doing. Okay, now then, can I tip that up without it falling on the floor? Sort of. So you kind of like get a ring, a blue ring which starts here. You then go up to a blue ring that sort of starts there. So you've got, and then another one that you sort of see from about this position. So you're starting to see it go across like that. So when I put another piece next to this, what I'll do is it will make it so it comes up across here. It's not showing up really well, just mainly because if I tip this up too much it's going to fall off. But the idea is it will have a slant on it, somewhat like that. Easiest way is just to carry on and do it, and then at the end of it you hopefully will see but this one is working out a lot easier than I thought it might. Mind you, I am weaving this one in a different direction as well to the one we did last night. The one we did last night took a little bit of getting started, but in this what I was doing with the one last night, the rings went in this you see these rings are going vertically. The one I did last night, the rings go in the opposite direction horizontally. So we did a really long chain to start with and then built on it. This one, because the rings are going the other way, we're kind of building up the thickness and working from that end up here with this. So it's sort of working in the opposite 90 degrees to what we did the other one last night. Again, I just thought I'd try it a different way and see how it looked. Through there, tip you through there, and I'm getting the hang of doing this now. So it's I've worked out, if you like, the way in which I can get hold of the ring to make it easy to do this, which is helping quite a bit. In theory, this is a 6-in one. In theory, you can do an 8-in one. I'm not sure these rings would be large enough, have the correct aspect ratio to be able to support that, but I don't know. Might just possibly get another 2 rings through there, but you start to get a bit tight. But don't quite know how long to go with this blue. before I switch back to gold. And bearing in mind the discussion earlier, I'm talking about gold colour, and I've picked up too many rings in that just the last four on each side, last two on each side. And then I add two more to make it the 6 rings that this centre ring goes through. Hence the 6 in 1 designation. Come back, ring. You might think you're getting away, but you're not going to. That donut is at the end of my desk. It's calling to me. Infinite. Oh, Infinite. Infinity C. I'm going to say it that way. Infinity C. Good evening. Welcome to the studio. Don't worry about your English. Your English is already better than my German. So don't worry about that. Oh yes, thank you. I shall try and drop in after this stream has finished. For those of you that don't know, Santa there is a friend of Fluffy Twiggler, and before you start wondering, it's not the one with the red coat and the white fluffy cuffs. It's not even the one with the green coat and the white fluffy cuffs if you are more traditionalist. Santa is Santa NYE, who is an electronic artist doing at the moment a fantasy portrait, and it looks really nice, if a little sad, but really nice. And she did her first ever stream earlier this week, and if she streams today, it'll be her second ever stream. So I kind of recommend, if she does, check out the stream, see if you like it. It's always good to see new streamers coming into creative, so yeah, encourage them if you see them. Okay, I'm switching back to gold. I'm going to do the same sort of diagonal sort of thing. So I've put one on there. Now then, I did that, put it on. The next one goes there. So the next one wants to be another blue core ring, and then I switch to gold. So I'm just got to get some more blue rings out when I work out where I put. Oh, there they are. Yes, I tend, well, I don't use old bracelets. I suppose I could do if you can take them about, but these are brand new rings that have not been used for anything before. They're made out of aluminium, and then they have been anodized and dyed to form the colours that I'm using here. but tonight is likely to be the last time you'll see me making jewellery for a few weeks anyway, shall we say, because unless I do an odd stream on a weekend, because I do 4 other crafts as well. So the stream sort of consists of doing the 5 crafts in total in turn. So tomorrow night, is likely almost certainly to be pyrography, creating images on wood using a heated tool, and that will take probably a couple of weeks to do that, and then we'll probably switch then to doing carving, so relief carving again on wood, and hopefully again that'll be sort of a couple of weeks of carving a particular piece, and then we'll switch from carving to probably scraper board, which is sort of a black, well, it's porcelain clay covered in black ink, and you scrape the ink away to form the picture. And then the craft after that would be one called punch craft, which is a bit like miniature rug making. So we use a large needle to push thread through material to create an image on the other side. That ring should have been yeah, this one ring here should have been yellow, so I'm just going to change it. Let's put a yellow ring in its place first, and then we'll take the blue one out. So I'll put a yellow one in where that's going to come out of, I will be able to see it. So that goes through there like that, and not through the blue one. And I should be able to take that blue one out if I can find where the join is. So I'm going to twist it open. It's there. I can't see it, but I can feel it. So as I have to twist it open, I need to find where to twist. If I twist it in the wrong place, the ring just bends. Okay. Right, that looks better. How long have I practiced for to be so good? Okay, this weave that you see me doing now, I have practiced for 1.5 hours. Well, about an hour actually, about 1 hour. This is the first, this chain that you see me doing here is the very first chain I have ever made using this weave. But I've been doing jewellery like this using chainmail now for on and off for about 2 months, so not very long, but luckily learning the basics of doing this is quite easy to do. The skill you develop in being able to speed up, for example, or knowing, like, you know, odd techniques like I have just worked out tonight, how to feed this ring I've just put through, the way to do it such that I don't have to struggle, and I can do it reasonably fast, and I don't end up sort of totally confused as to how or what I'm doing. For some weaves, you know, that takes a little bit of doing, especially when you start a weave. Some weaves are really awkward to start, and you just have to trust to your skill that you're doing it right. But thank you very much for the compliment. Occasionally though, the rings do tend to fight back. This one, for example, is being a little bit awkward, but I almost always win in the end. And as these guys probably have heard me say before, I often talk to the rings, which is not really a problem. It only becomes a problem when they talk back, and that hasn't happened yet. So that's, for some reason I keep wanting to move my hand down to, I've got used to the camera having an inverted view, and so I keep wanting to do that. But that's kind of what it's looking like at the moment. Let me hold it lengthwise. There we go. This actually is almost usable as a bracelet in its own right, just that thin band. I'd quite like to make it a bit thicker myself, but you know, it might be that what I'll do at some point is make a bracelet that's just literally that thick. It looks quite nice, especially with the colour change in the middle there. Oops, more rings required. Indeed, yes. I have not actually made any earrings yet, but fairly simple earrings which are just you know, short lengths of chain like this. Obviously wouldn't be particularly a problem. Let's get a fair few out. And I kind of one of the things I do is when I just try out things, I'll try, so things like this would work quite reasonably well as an earring, just because it's quite solid, so that would act as a solid earring. It's a bit too stiff really, but it might. But that was just an experiment to try, and so as perhaps a small pendant or potentially as an earring it might work. I don't quite like the fact it's too tight, but you get things like this, if I can get hold of it in a way that makes sense, you know, which could be used as an earring. And these are quite small rings. This one's nice and sort of flexible, so it sort of will wobble a little bit. Or even just a simple 4-in-1 half Persian. Hobberg 87, you can make king mail instead of European. It would seem to be a little bit thicker. Yes, indeed, it possibly would. I've not tried king mail yet. That is something that I will try at some point in the future. Is king mail. This is 6-in-1 that I'm doing at the moment. That one there is 6-in-1, which is a little bit nice. I using exactly the same rings. I did a 4-in-1, so you can see there's a fair sort of difference. They're exactly the same sized rings, and yet this one obviously looks a lot thick. It looks thicker, and it looks sort of obviously more dense than the 4-in-1, which gives it a completely different look. which is interesting. I like the way that the different weaves, like the difference between 4 and 6, makes such a difference to the image that's created. So, but yes, I will probably try King's Mail. I'd like to try, well, there are tens of thousands of weaves, but I'd like to try a number of them. I love making things up, not making things like this, creating them from scratch. Don't make things up. In VTC, I'm afraid I couldn't tell you. I'm in the UK, so I don't think most people have them. To be honest, I highly suspect that's not the case, but a lot of people, I'm sure, do. King's Mail is like 4-in-1, all rings in 4 adjustable. Okay, I'll get around to trying it at some point. It's just not yet. I can only do so much at once. I am literally, since I started doing this, almost literally every piece I have done has been a different weave, or there's been something different about it. So the very first piece I ever did, which was from a kit, was Byzantine. Then I did a box weave. Then I've gone on to doing things like a full Persian. Then I did a full, then I've done like a full Persian with so Maggie Pie 21. Thank you very much for following. That's most kind of you. I do appreciate everybody that follows. That's fantastic. So I mean, that was a full Persian. Let me move my cream cake because I've got a box, a little bit of showing off thing. If I can find the bit I'm looking for, that's not it, but I'll come to that in a moment. That's the one. So that was a full Persian. Then I did it using, I've done it now just recently using bigger rings, just to see what it was like in bigger rings. Because this one at the bottom is a little bit tight, wouldn't work for a bracelet, for example. It doesn't curve enough. This one is a bracelet and it curves very nicely. So I just try things like that, and then I don't know, we've got a candy cane weave, which I tried in a large ring, and I also tried it in a smaller ring. So I have almost literally not done two pieces that are the same. They've either been a different shaped ring, a sized ring rather, or they've been done for a special purpose. I mean, I've done a couple of, I mean, this is a half Persian 3-in-1, and I have done another one which is here. This is also a half Persian 3-in-1, which was done as a special commission. Sorry, I'm off frame, so I did half Persian 3-in-1. Again, it was a smaller ring size, but this was a special commission for somebody who likes tennis, because these are the Wimbledon Tennis Championship almost colours. They're purple and green. Well, the Wimbledon colours are a very specific colour. These don't match. They are close, but they don't match. But that was for somebody who is a tennis enthusiast. So this bracelet is called Wimbledon Wishes. It's their wishes for a particular player to win Wimbledon. They didn't, but you can wish. So it's just lots of just playing with new weaves. So I can't, it'll be a little while, but I will get around to doing King's Mail and Queen's Mail and things like that. Oh, you You will find some UK police officers do wear them, especially in places like airports. Yes, they. I'm busy opening rings, and I keep picking that up, and I can't. I need to open rings first. Oh yes, lovely combinations of colours. I mean, they. To be honest, whilst I could make my own rings, I don't. It's a lot easier to buy them pre-anodized and pre-cut. So I've got 15 different. I can't zoom this camera out, which is at the moment is a bit annoying. But I've got a box here with 15 different colours in it. There's actually 16 in this ring size, but one of them is empty. So unfortunately, I can't. Some of the colours don't show up very well, but we've got at the bottom there. You've got black, like a gunmetal. It's called. What's it called? Something ice. Something like dark ice. I've forgotten what it's called now. Black ice. So it's a sort of a light black gunmetal colour. You then have bronze, red, green, a royal blue, pink, gold, colour called champagne. That which looks blue is actually a lavender colour, so it's a light purple. Orange. This which also looks blue is actually a really deep purple. Unfortunately, the camera and all the lighting together conspire to make the purples show up blue. This is what they call sky blue. It's kind of a light blue, yellow, a colour they call seafoam, which is a mint colour, white, silver, and the one that's missing is a colour called dark rose, which is darker than the pink but lighter than the red, so it's kind of halfway between. In fact, the dark rose is what that is. That's the dark rose colour, with a purple inside it at the moment on this one. You're working on a chainmail shirt, making your own rings. You are a glutton for punishment doing both of those. I assume you're perhaps using steel wire for doing that. I think Hoberg is probably, I guess, what you're using, and that I'm getting hold of that again. I need to open rings. That's going to be some effort to do. I think I would personally be inclined to, if I wanted a chainmail shirt, to actually buy one made, because commercially these days chainmail, things like chainmail garments, are actually sewn by machine, or knit by machine, so they're, a handmade one is relatively expensive. Of course, if you're doing it for yourself, then it comes down to just the price of the materials and your own time, but it's one heck of a large undertaking, is that, especially if you're making the rings yourself. Fence wire. Okay, yeah, it'll be an anodized soft steel of some kind, I suspect. Yeah, your hardest bit will be winding it tight onto the mandrel, I imagine. And it takes it'll take a fair bit of effort to do that. Of course, I have the advantage here that I'm working with aluminium, so this wire, if I was to make my own with this wire, it would be a little bit easier to wind. And what amazes me about these is the size of the saw that was used to create them, because these are saw cut rings. You can get commercially produced rings with that are done in 3 different ways of cutting the ring, because the rings are made as Hoburg there, Hoburg 87 there knows. The rings are made by taking a length of wire and wrapping it around a cylindrical object. It's called a mandrel, of the right-ish external diameter to form the internal diameter of the ring that you're after. And for it to work, you have to wrap them really tight up against each other and around the mandrel, which is quite a difficult thing to do. It takes a bit of skill, shall we say, to achieve it. And then what they do is they slip it off the mandrel, and then cut. Sorry, I'm just trying to get this ring to come off of that ring. They then cut the rings. Come along, what are you doing? Thank you. So if you can imagine having two, have I got 2 of these that are loose? Yeah. I don't know if I can show you this, but sort of, you can imagine that you form a coil of wire with all, just like that, side by side, and then what they do is they take a saw and cut them down the length of the coil, and as you cut through the rings, they all basically drop off. Cut through the coil, all the rings drop off like looking like this, with that tiny sort of twist in it and the gap. But equally, saw cut rings are the best because they close better than any others. But they can use Getting Money 12. Thank you very much for following. That is very kind of you. Thank you very much. Do appreciate you doing that. What was I saying? Oh yes, they can use a pair of cutters. Now, and on harder metals they use bolt cutters. Now what they are is kind of, it's like 2 knife blades that come together, and a knife, as you might, if you recall or have seen, a knife blade is kind of V-shaped. So you get like 2 V-shapes coming together, and that then creates a V-shape on the end of the wire of the ring. So when you try and close them, you get a gap, which is the sort of the V-shape on the top and bottom. You get some edge cutters where it's kind of straight on one edge and the other side slanted, so you get one edge that's straight and the other end, and you still end up with a gap. So the best rings, certainly for jewellery making, are saw cut rings, whereas for other purposes it might not matter quite so much. Depends on, obviously, on what effect you're after. If you're making something where you might use machine cut, they're described as rings. Chainmail shirts. Okay. Oh, in the ring sizes. Okay. Well, that's one reason for doing it yourself. I don't know, to be honest. It's not something I have particularly investigated. I don't particularly have an interest in having a chainmail shirt or any other chainmail garment. So, but I can see if you can't get what you want, then making it becomes your only choice. So, yeah, good luck. Now I can weave. So I just pick these back up in my hand in the right shapes. I hold those last 4 rings. I'm working with the last 4 on the chain, and what I'll do is pick up an open ring, and I will feed it through the last 2 on that side, twist it, last 2, twist it and pick up the last 2 on the other side. So I've gone through basically the last 4 rings, 2 on each side. I then hold it up and put 2 new closed rings on here, and they're the ones that extend the chain. So So this this middle ring just holds the sides together, and the two that I've just added extend it and make it a bit longer. And then I just repeat that again. Pick up the last 4, 2 on each side. A bit of a twist in the middle. Sometimes these rings get a bit awkward. Like that. So I've picked up the 4 and then put the 2 new ones on. This is 6 in 1, is this. So I picked up 4 rings with the 1 ring. I add another 2 to it, that makes the 6. So this is a European 6 in 1. As you can see, it's a very close sort of weave. I understand you can go to 8 in 1, but I haven't tried that. So it's quite a close weave compared with this one, which is the 4 in 1. This is same size rings. This is a 4 in 1. You can see there's quite a bit of space between them. If I overlay the 6 in 1 and get it in shot, you can see they're a lot closer together. Okay, I'll just carry on for a little bit longer. Come along, rings, stop trying to play games. You know, you're not going to win. And then 2 on the end. And then close it. That's not closed properly. In fact, it's hardly closed at all. Can you see there's a large, they're quite offset quite a bit there. So I'll just tweak them back into place. So when they're closed properly, with, as I mentioned, saw cut rings, it's almost impossible. Or potentially, well, I won't say it is impossible, but you know, for practical purposes, you often can't see where the join is. Sometimes you can feel it, because it'll be, you'll have a very, if there's a very slight misalignment, you can sort of feel like a little rough bit. But again, sometimes that's almost impossible to feel as well. I mean, I know there's a join just here and I can't feel it and I can't see it, but there again, as you can see, I am wearing glasses and I am wearing my good pair of glasses. I'm just looking at this and deciding if I want to put another blue section in at about this point. I think it's probably I'm sort of at about the right sort of point to put another blue section in. Okay. Having said a minute not so long ago, I've sort of picked up the technique, I developed my technique for doing this and then struggle with it, just to prove how wrong I am. So I'll put a blue ring on here. And close this. Now then, because I've switched to blue rings, I don't have any prepared. So I'm just going to need to prepare a few blue rings. This won't take too long. come apart you. I'll close these. Okay, Maggie Pie 21, thank you very much for dropping in, that's kind of you. If you're interested in watching chainmail as well, keep an eye out for Mr. Boombati in Creative, because he does chainmail. He actually does armour based, a lot of armour type chainmail. And there are a couple of other streamers I've noticed as well doing chainmail just recently. You will perhaps occasionally come across Eddie Fall Guy, who also creates jewellery. And as I say, I've noticed a couple of streamers. I was watching one last night, unfortunately I can't remember his name, but he has just started streaming doing chainmail when he's not playing games. So there's a few around, and I look forward to seeing you back again, Maggie. Maggie Pie 21. That sounds like the old children's television program we used to have in the UK. Magpie. You kind of you're either a fan of that or Blue Peter. You kind of that's when I was young, of course, which is a good many years ago, but the two were on different television channels and sort of competing with one another. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And so you tended to watch one or the other. Horberg 87, thank you very much for following me. That's very kind of you, and thank you for doing that. It's much appreciated. Horberg, I'm sorry, I don't understand that last comment. Wear it low-key. I think you perhaps meant to say something else. The only Loki I know is a mythical god of jokes, or not jokes, but it used to be a joker. Did lots of practical jokes, I think, if I remember correctly. Now then, I want a gold ring here, not a... The blue one comes next. So now 2 blue rings, one on each side. Sorry, I'm holding this off a frame again. I'll try and keep in. Now then, this one should now be a blue ring. Yep, that looks right. Yep. God of Mischief. That's the word I was looking for. Oh, that's right. Yes, thank you, Horberg. You're right. Loki or Loki, something like Loki. You're correct. Thank you. I'm guessing you were perhaps watching as well last night. He was doing rings in sterling. Not sterling, in bright aluminium. That's right. and he'd done a few different weaves yesterday. Thank you very much for that. I did follow him, so hopefully I'll see him do some more. Okay. Yes, Yoda. Now you've got me. You've got me now with that comment, Fluffy Twiddler. I don't think I'd said something sort of backwards. I don't. Sorry, I was about to say I don't understand the syntax of Yoda. I mean, I obviously can understand Yoda, but it's. I know it's a particular way of saying things. I know you can sort of sound like Yoda by just rearranging the words in the like know it you do, for example. It sounds like Yoda, but I don't actually know if that's the correct syntax. But it's always fun to occasionally drop in a Yodaism. Okay, just a moment, and I will turn off the air conditioning. For those of you that are wondering about that spurious statement, Mrs. Zaraganart just dropped into the studio and mentioned it was quite cold in here because I've got an air conditioner running. We had some quite interesting rainstorms today, a bit like yesterday up here in Yorkshire in the UK, where all of a sudden it didn't so much rain as they dropped a reservoir out of the sky, and there was a heck of a lot of water landed really quickly, and it made the humidity extremely high, which of course made everything feel really warm. Right, I have again run out of blue rings, but that's what we've got so far. I actually don't know how long this is. It wants to be about 7 inches long, so I'm just going to measure it. I can't easily show you. Well, I can try. Okay, we're just over 4 inches. So for a bracelet length, I'd want this to be about 7, because a clasp adds about 7.5 inch. So we're about just over 4. And I'd want for this particular one, I want to add another one alongside. What I'm going to do, I think, is I'd like to finish this on the stream. So I was going to do some pyrography tomorrow. I think what we'll do is we'll finish this bracelet on stream, taking it to 7 inches and putting another strip along the side of it, so it's twice this width, and we'll finish this one piece and then we'll move on to the pyrography. So I'm actually going to end the stream here now. It's about the right sort of time. We're a little bit late. I normally finish. I'm showing you something that you can't see because again, sorry. So I was going to say I want this to be twice the width, I think. So I'll finish it. I'll finish this probably tomorrow night, and then we'll move on to pyrography probably on Tuesday. So I'm going to say thank you everybody for watching. It has been great fun. If there's anybody watching that isn't following, then I would of course be grateful if you push that follow button, but if you don't want to, that's okay. If you would just like the notification which Twitter will give you, you can follow me at Zaragonart, and the details for that are below the stream window and will be on the end plate in a moment. On the other hand, if you just want to try and catch me tomorrow, it will be from approximately 8 PM UK time, 1900 hours GMT, or about 2 hours 10 minutes ago it was 8 o'clock, so that time tomorrow. Thank you all, it's been fun, see you again, bye bye.